Hi, I'm Jessica Lombard, proud superintendent of Huntley Community School District 158. Welcome back to another episode of Raider Roundtable. Today we're going to explore the heart of education, the reason we're here, student growth and achievement in our schools. In this episode, we'll dive into why fostering growth in the classroom goes far beyond just grades. It's about nurturing potential, building resilience, and empowering students to become lifelong learners. We'll talk about the roles of educators and how our parents can partner with us. So whether you're a student, a teacher, or just passionate about education, let's jump right on in and talk about how growth and achievement is shaping the future of our schools. And today we have a very special guest with us. Today on our episode, we have Paula Moan. Paula, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Paula, you've been with the district now for a number of years. Your current role is that of Director of Curriculum and Instruction, specializing more in the elementary, but working with all of our grade levels with your colleagues. But you've been in education for a number of years, a variety of different roles. And I recall first meeting you when you were starting out teaching.
Yes, absolutely.
So, Paula, tell us a little bit about your background and what you do currently in our district, specifying, a lot about that student achievement and growth component.
Okay, great. Well, I've been in education about 26 years. I was an elementary teacher and a reading teacher in elementary, and then a curriculum coordinator back in the day when I met you. And I've been in Huntley now 10 years of that 26. I was an assistant principal and a principal at McCaben. And then for the last 3 years, I've served as the director of curriculum, specializing in pre-K through fifth grade.
Your passion all this time has been really about, you have a lot of knowledge of around many areas, but specifically when we talk about literacy, state standards, really getting kids to tap into their potential.
That's all I've ever wanted to do, is help kids tap into their potential. And I think what is interesting about my role is that I get to see so much of an impact on the kids all across the district, but also on our educators and the connections that I have built with our principal teams, with our teachers, to really dig in and work on what's best for all of our students to show their growth and achievement in many, many ways. Academics is a big piece of that, but there's so many others.
One of the things that I think I am most impressed with the work that you do, student outcomes, we are always aiming towards what we can do to make sure that our students are prepared to leave us and to be productive in whatever path that is. Sure. And I know it's hard to think about that when they're early on, but a piece that you never lose sight of is something you just talked about there. And it's making sure that we are equipping our teachers with the resources and what do they need to be able to best bring that out in students. And so not only when we talk about student achievement and outcomes, it's not only just what is the student able to produce, but it's how can we prepare our teachers and our parents to be able to support that. So thank you for all you do for our kids and our staff as well.
Thank you.
Now, student achievement, growth, outcomes, you can define that in so many ways. When you think about that, how does our district define student growth and student achievement?
It's so multifaceted. Obviously we're looking at academic proficiency. We want our students to be proficient in core subject areas, reading, math, science, social studies, but there is such a broader range of skills that truly shows achievement and the preparation to be ready to be a lifelong learner and productive member. We look at student growth. So we look at where is your entry point as an individual and what do we need to do to help you to reach your maximum potential. And so we track that to ensure that we are providing those opportunities for you to grow at the rate in which you will be successful.
Sure.
We look at do our students have the ability to think critically and to problem solve? Can they collaborate with others? Are they able to communicate effectively and show their creative side? We also look at, we know employers want students who actually have self-regulation and organizational skills, but also adaptability and flexibility in their thinking and motivation. And so all of those pieces come together in order for us to help ensure that our students are ready for whatever they do when they leave us, whether that's college, it's a career, it's another pathway. We really want to develop them to be the whole child and to be the best version of themselves.
One of the things we're currently doing with our strategic plan, we're developing kind of that portrait of a graduate. And we've really kind of shifted that based on some feedback that we got from our parents and our community members. Again, we want to make sure that they're prepared to leave us and do whatever it is in their next journeys. But that starts in early childhood, starts in kindergarten, and as they're moving forward. So all of these skills that you just talked about are things we want them to have when they leave us. We have to start teaching those early on. So what does that look like in the classroom at those K-1-2 levels that you just shared?
Well, it's really amazing what you're able to see kids do. I mean, I think what's unique here is that we've been able to really strike a balance, especially at the K-2 level, of those foundational skills in literacy and math that are so important to set that base, while also offering a lot of opportunity for students to use language, use their voice, problem solve together, communicate with each other. It might need to look a little more structured. We might have, explanation of sentence frames and how are we actually helping you have that conversation with another. But what we're seeing kids do and talk about, and I think it's even come out in some of the strategic planning sessions that parents of some of our youngest learners are saying, my child is coming home and they're talking about what they're doing or how they're solving that problem. And I think that's really exciting to see because it's good to build those skills early.
And then that builds up on when they go into third, fourth, and fifth, middle school, high school, and beyond. And so what that success looks like is really hard to put a definition on because it looks different at different grade levels and it looks different for individual students as they're progressing, through that component. If you think about, and again, I know it's elementary, but you really do work closely with our secondary directors as well. What would you say are some of the district's biggest accomplishments in the last few years when we look at student achievement or student growth?
Well, I think our approach to literacy has been a huge strength, and that transfers all the way K through 12. If you've been watching any of the news and you've heard people talk about the science of reading, we made some shifts about 5 years ago to really change our literacy approach to a structured approach, where we're really teaching those foundational pieces so that when our students are getting into upper elementary, into middle and high school, they have those foundational skills so that they can think critically, comprehend, have strong vocabulary. So we trained all of our teachers in how kids learn how to read, and it's really actually quite complicated. And I will tell you, I did not learn those things in college. A lot of our teachers did not. We also trained our 6-12 teachers.
Because they talk about that secondary spot.
So we started at the elementary, and then we continued that beginning 2 summers ago with our 6-12 staff. And so at this point now, we're really looking at how does that content and vocabulary connect so that we're actually building those skills in all of our classes. And it's not just the English teacher's responsibility. So then we're able to get kids to really dig deep into the content they're learning, and they truly understand that through some of that. So when the Illinois Literacy Plan came out just this past year, there wasn't anything in there that really surprised us. It didn't feel different for us. And I don't think every district can say that, to be honest.
You were ahead of the game based on some of the things, research. It's looking ahead, looking at our data. How can we continue to go there, but trying to be more proactive than reactive on what we're seeing?
Definitely. And so it felt good to see that come out and know that we're on the right track.
So, Paula, these changes don't happen once a year. We don't look at things at the end of the year to say, oh, for the next school year, here's what we're going to do. Do you want to talk a little bit about what are some of those measures that we use? Some of it's state. Some of those are more local kinds of things. And how do we work with our teachers when we are seeing that data?
Right. Well, obviously, you mentioned some of our state assessments. We keep our eye on that, absolutely. But that's once a year, and we don't get that data back right away. So it absolutely is in-class assessments that are happening across the board. What are some of our project-based learning? What are some performance tasks and portfolios that really show student growth over time? That's one of the way that we measure. We can also look at measuring how engaged students are in their learning and their well-being, even through some of our attendance and behavior data, and on how involved they are in activities outside of school. But I'm proud of our aligned system of really looking at student growth and data. Our teachers know how to speak about it. They know how to take a look at it. Our professional learning communities come together and really look at how our students growing and developing, and what do we need to do about it, whether we need to remediate, we need to reteach, or these kids have it. What are we doing to push them forward? Because I do feel like, the pandemic came and went, and we're trying to catch up that learning. We're caught. And I think now what we see is, how do we increase that rigor for all and really have those high expectations, because it's amazing what they can do when we push them that way.
You talked about professional learning communities and at different levels. They meet different times during the week with that. But it's where our educators are getting together, having professional conversations. We've had to model, what does that look like based on the data that we have, so that we are talking about the right things and how to make changes. But oftentimes, right, so at maybe at the elementary level, those are happening on Wednesdays. But we have late start. We recently just had an early release. We've got our institute days. And so, maybe they're not professional learning communities in a sense for that. We've really structured a lot of our meetings. What happens on those days when we're talking about student outcomes and achievement?
So many things happen. I mean, I think part of professional learning communities is the planning of what you're going to do for students. What do they need to know, and how will we know that they know it? These days, especially, I would say, we just had one. We're very differentiated to meet. Our kindergarten teachers were doing different work than our first and second, than our third, fifth, and 6-8, and so at every single level, we're really digging in and taking a look at, what do all of our students need to know what to do, and what is the data showing us that they're progressing toward that, and what do we need to do differently. And sometimes it's, what do we need to do differently for certain individual students, and really digging into that individual data and making some of those decisions about how we move learning forward for all, and we don't leave anyone behind. I think that's the power. Yeah,
and we just don't have enough time, right? We could always use more time. We've talked about some of our challenges on how can we look at these days, because there are only so many of them, to really be able to do more of that vertical articulation, so that we have those connections across our grade levels.
Right.
Administrators and our staff in the buildings use that time the best that they can. We just, again, don't have enough of that. But you guys have really structured that time so that people know, what should I be looking at? What's going to give me the biggest bang for my buck during this time that we're there? Paula, how do we involve our students on knowing what this personal growth looks like, or what that achievement means for them as an individual?
I think that's open communication first on, why are we learning what we're learning. I think we are working hard to make learning relevant for our students, so that they see the connection and they see the value. Once they see the value and they understand why they're learning what they're learning, it's really important to provide that feedback as soon as possible. Everyone needs it. They need it especially to know that they're on the right track. So things that we might be doing are having them track their own progress, or working with another student and helping each other track progress. But we really want our students to know, what is the target? How close am I to achieving that target? And what do I need to do it differently or better, or how is there a better way for me to show my learning, because it's not the same for everyone,
right?
And one assessment doesn't capture that for all. So they're pretty smart, right? I mean, at all levels, they'll tell you exactly how they might better show that,
right? So. And it's fun to even watch. You see your littlest learners, those youngest learners, and the way they express it could be very different than what we're seeing the high school students do.
Sure.
But they need to be involved, and they want to be involved. So let's fast forward to another stakeholder group. Let's turn the page here to the parents. How do we ensure that we are getting parents the information? What does this data mean? What are you talking about with some of these numbers, so that they can be fully engaged and partner with us, because that growth and that achievement expands past, the 2:30 or 3:30 time clock.
Right, absolutely. I think those open lines of communication are really key, and I think what you just said about we need to communicate those results and help parents understand what they mean. We speak in a lot of jargon that doesn't make a lot of sense if you're not in education. So one of the things we did when we were redoing our report card just recently was even create learning guides where we're really explicitly laying out for parents, what should your child know how to do by the end of this grade? What does that exactly mean? I think we even had a glossary of terms.
Sure.
And how can you help them at home? The other piece we do is, we do screening assessments 3 times a year to get a temperature check really on how are we progressing, how are all students, and then who needs us to get a deeper look at them because they might need something more. We share that data with parents as well as what exactly does it mean, because those reports can be difficult to understand. If your child receives an intervention, we track progress weekly or biweekly. We share those graphs with parents as well as an understanding of this is what the target is, this is what it means. And I think parent-teacher opportunities are a great time for parents to come in and actually just really hear from the classroom teacher who is with your child every single day. What are their strengths? What are some of their challenges? How do we partner together? Because you're right, it doesn't end when the school bell ends. It is a partnership, and I think we've got some wonderful involved families who really want to help create that partnership so that their students can be the best they can be.
Absolutely. And what's going on in the classrooms at all levels looks different than when we were there, when they were students. And so again, the more we can arm them with those resources and understandings, that partnership will just continue to flourish. So you talked about those opportunities, a parent-teacher conference. They can be some of our parent-teacher advisories. I saw last year at the elementary level when they were rolling out just exactly what you were talking about, those grade level outcomes and standards and pieces there. Do they need to just wait for those opportunities, or what advice would you have to a parent who might be seeing something, whether it's a grade or a data point that just really doesn't understand, or maybe they're seeing something that just is a disconnect from what they're seeing at home? What advice do you have for them?
I would reach directly out to your teacher as well. Our teachers are really, really smart and very involved in the success of each student. They are understanding the data. They know what they need to do in the classroom. That's your first and your best bet, right, is to go to your teacher. I think just to learn about the district overall is really to get involved in your parent-teacher committees and really our PTACs, our multilingual parent committee. Our board meetings, we have updates all the time, and we talk about these pieces. Another piece is that we had that curriculum workshop. My department helped kind of host a curriculum workshop in the fall where we invited community members and parents to come in and really take a look. We ran it like a leadership meeting where we were taking a look at data over time through our subgroup lens. What does it mean? What are our strengths? What are our challenges? Parents got to ask some really good questions. They saw things maybe that we didn't even see, or they brought to the table other ideas that help address some of our challenges. And so every one of those opportunities is another opportunity to dig in and get to understand and learn more, because it does move fast and it has changed.
Well, one of the things you had mentioned a little while ago was some of the things you were really proud of, the work with the science of reading and looking at that. One of the things that I know has been a shift, it's always happened, but really intentional and purposeful over the last couple years, is that learning and innovation department. You've got folks who have expertise in curriculum and instruction at the different levels. SEL, social emotional learning, our multilingual, and our special education, gifted. So the way that you structure the work is no longer in silos. You're really trying to look at what do all of our students need at the various grade levels, and then how do we provide that personalized approach to meet the needs, regardless if they have an IEP, if they speak another language as their primary language, if they are gifted. And so I really wanted to make sure that we highlighted the way that work is being done is really integrated. And I think that is something you have seen in the data that it is making a positive impact for all of our students and what's happening in the classrooms.
Absolutely. Our motto of all students always, we live and breathe that truly. Our team at the district level, but our administrators and our teachers as well, we really are digging into what are we doing for all without leaving anyone behind, and what are we doing for the individual as well. For example, our EL population of students has tripled in the past 3 years. We have over 70 languages spoken. It's wonderful. One of the things that we know that we needed to do as a leadership team was really dig into some of that individual student data. When a student enters the school system as an English learner, the state gives you 5 years to get to English proficiency. And so we were actually looking at individual student data. How many years do they have left to proficiency? Are they on track? What does their growth look like? And so I think that speaks to all departments coming together. We've done similar with some of our special education students. So I think my team really sees that it's all of our students on all areas, and we want to do the best for everyone, and our teachers do as well. They really do, and so it is a good team effort there.
Absolutely. Thank you for highlighting that. We also know that there are challenges. There will be challenges all of the time. You talked about it's been a few years, but we came out of the pandemic, and some of the growth and achievement that we saw reverted kind of backwards. I think we're at that level. We were at least pre-pandemic scores and above. What are some of the other challenges that maybe our district is facing, and what are we doing to kind of try to tackle that head on?
Well, you mentioned time earlier, and I hate to say time because there's never enough hours in the day to do all the things we want to do. Every year the state gives us mandated units of study. And it feels like every year we get a couple more, and we don't get any taken off. So I think what we're doing is we're really trying to prioritize the minutes we do have and really help set that out for our teachers so that they don't have to make those decisions willy-nilly on their own. They really know this is the priority. Here's where this is going to be taught. So we're definitely addressing, those types of challenges. I think technology there are lots of advantages and there are lots of challenges that come with technology. We know that this is a digital world. We know that our students need to know how to navigate this digital world. And so it is our responsibility to help them with that and to teach them those pieces. But that's changing so quickly. It's you can barely keep up with how fast it changes. And we also know that too much technology hasn't shown to be healthy for the growth and development of these young brains. So I think what we are doing about that is really, truly trying to balance the need to prepare them for this digital world they're in, while also creating hands-on learning opportunities, problem-based and inquiry learning. I think we went all in on one-to-one technology, and now we're pulling back a little bit on when is it appropriate. And I think through even some of the planning sessions with some of our high school students that have come and spoken, they don't want to be on technology the entire time either. So I think that's a balance that we have to strike, and that's a challenge for everyone, but we're on it.
And I think that it's important. We have to reflect on the practices that we do. And I think that that is something that we have really embraced to look at. Well, this is something positive. We need to see what is working, what might we need to tweak, not only just for our learners, but what are we seeing in society? What are we seeing in our community? Are we really listening to those needs? And it's okay to say, hey, we're all in on this, but now we're going to shift back a little because times have also changed. And not only are our kiddos on technology during the school day, they have that access outside. And that was just one example. But that constant reflection of we've planned, we're acting, we need to go back and review the things. And we may make tweaks with, what's going on to make our classrooms and our instruction, better and more engaging based on what we need to do for our learners right now.
For sure.
When we think about Huntley 158, what makes learning unique in our district?
I definitely think our motto, all students always, makes us unique in terms of we truly live it and we own it and we believe it. I think we've struck a balance between, we've talked already here about the foundational learning that we think is truly valuable in the early grades, foundational understanding of literacy and math, because we have so many opportunities and open doors for students as they get older. They get to experience those opportunities because they have this foundation.
Right.
So we have a lot of different electives and exploratories. Our college and career opportunities for dual credit and dual degree, our academies and AP classes, that is all unique to Huntley, that we have so much we can offer. And there's that balance then of how do we get kids there so they can truly explore those avenues. I also think our community truly does value education. I think we see that every day. I think we see that in the businesses that are opening their doors to job experiences and internships. We see that in our education foundation and how much they support the district and they support our schools. Our parents, when I was a building principal, I couldn't believe how many people wanted to come in and volunteer. Right. It was wonderful. And Del Webb is right here in our backyard. And how many Del Webb volunteers we would get that came in.
And recently with Del Webb, at one of their recent board meetings, we had actually, was our department chair, Mr. Nick Wiedoff, went in and did some presentations about just what you were talking about with some of the opportunities that we have and how can we tap into the expertise and the knowledge of the individuals that are in our community. And they actually took board action to partner with us to be able to do just those things. And so how we know we can get information out to our parents, where parents, we can always get better on communicating where they can go to find these things out. We include our students on that achievement. How can our community follow along with what we're doing in our schools and maybe how they can volunteer or partner with us?
Well, I think that definitely through our board meetings, we're always providing updates in that. Our community members are welcome to come to our curriculum workshops as well. We have one coming in June where we're going to do the very thing we did in the fall. That's another wonderful opportunity for our community to get involved. And our principals want community support in the buildings. They're excited when someone reaches out or wants to come in or wants to learn or wants to help. And so we've got a wonderful liaison in the district level, Eileen Delahante, who helps organize that. So there are lots of different opportunities, but knock on our door. We'd love to have you.
And we'll find out how can we connect. If they're not sure, we can have some conversation and find those opportunities. Because again, learning doesn't just happen out of our curriculum and our textbooks, or with the standards that we have. It takes our whole community to do that.
Absolutely.
Paula, thank you so much for joining us today on today's episode where we really dug into the heart of why we're here in education. And so again, thank you for sharing your expertise, talking on behalf of your whole team, and just again, for the work that you do. Students and staff really resonate at your heart, and that passion really comes through in all that you do. So.
Thank you. It was great being here today.
We'd again like to thank the Huntley Area Public Library for the use of this amazing recording studio. But before signing off, here's another Huntley 158 fun fact. Conley Elementary was named after Marion Conley, who taught in a one-room schoolhouse from 1926 to 1945 in a one-room schoolhouse located at the corner of Halligus and Conley Road. When Huntley built its first school in town, Marion Conley taught third grade from 1946 to 1972. And we thank you for joining us once again, where it's all students always. Until next time.